Você é uma mãe solo com 3 filhos fingindo ser policial.
Eu sou consultora. Tem um cadáver, tô indo.
Você não é a moça da limpeza?
Tô vendo que trouxe o seu bebê pra uma cena de crime.
Hi, Daniel. It's
Hello.
such a huge pleasure to be here with you. Congratulations on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
Oh, thank you for your time. You probably don't remember this, but back in 2020, amid the COVID, we talked about Power Book 2, and it was an amazing interview. So it's so good to be here with you again.
I do vaguely remember that. It was a while ago, and
Yes.
I'm getting older, so my memory is a little. So forgive me, but I do remember vaguely. Yes.
Don't worry. Like the COVID time was a weird time for all of us. So like our memory is very foggy from that period, right?
Indeed.
So I loved High Potential. It's such a fun show. We don't usually see crime dramas with such a lighter tone, and that's what I love about this show. And I wanted to know from you, what was that thing that like, I don't know, got your attention the minute that you read the script?
I think that your observation would be that it would be that. It was the fact that like I had read many scripts that were in the context of procedural television, but I had never seen anything like this. I was like, oh, and then Caitlin Olsen, Drew Goddard, ABC. Everything about it. There was absolutely no downside. Everything about it was interesting to me. But the thing that really stood out was the fact that it was a procedural, but it had a comedic element. And as I was reading it, it made me laugh. So, I mean, it worked on the page. I was like, there's no way that this is not gonna, be a popular show.
And you're absolutely right. It became an instant success in the US. People are very, very like fond about this show, and it has become the first most watched title in Disney Plus here in Brazil. I don't know if you know that. So like people are just going insane about it here.
It's really amazing, and honestly, it's unexpected. I've been acting for quite some time, and I don't think that I've ever been a part of something that has had this kind of success. I mean, in terms of like resonating with a fan base even larger than America, Brazil. I mean, people really like the show. It makes me happy. I mean, it's a good feeling.
And the show is based in the French success, High Intellectual Potential, which was like a huge success with 4 seasons. It also belongs to Hulu. But what does this version differs from the original show?
Our show is the American version of the French original, but I think that our show is also kind of original in this sense. We're not like copy and paste of everything from the French original. I think the pilot is very close to the French original pilot, but like we have, the cases that we're solving, it's not literally the exact same show. Same characters, mostly, but it's not exactly the same show. And what makes it different? I don't know. I mean, the actors on the French original are fantastic. I guess we wouldn't be making our version of the show if that show was not an amazing show. But when you think about what Caitlin Olsen is bringing to the table, what Matthew Lamb brings to the show, what Amira J brings to the show, Javicia Leslie, Dennis Octanes, Judy Reyes, it's just different artists, that are just bringing their own take on these various characters. And it's just a pleasure to come to work with such an amazingly talented group every day.
And I totally agree with you, because this is not the first time that we see an American version of a famous European show. We have a great example with The Office. And I love that we have like those cultural and social backgrounds that are very different, and both shows can be relatable to audiences. And this is so nice, because this is what I think about in terms of High Potential. Like both shows, although they have a similar structure, they resonate differently with the audiences, right?
Yes, I think so. And it is also interesting because you mentioned this. If you're on Hulu, you can watch the entire French original show, and you can watch the American, or like our version, our take on the show. And they're the same, but they're also different. And yeah, you mentioned like cultural resonance. I think that that's significant as well. But we're just very fortunate and very happy that our version of the show is hitting the hearts and the minds of people in Brazil. It's amazing to me. Like I'm very humbled by that.
And I'm very impressed by that because I also work on social media. I work with movies and TV shows on social media. And I was asking the audiences what they were watching. And most of them answered me hypertension. And I was like, oh my God, this show just released in Brazil. And then it's already a hit here. How does that feel for you? As you mentioned in the beginning, like you're reaching a different audience. You're not only talking to Americans audiences, right?
No, you're correct. I have to be honest with you. I didn't really realize until I found out that I was going to be having these interviews. I, I didn't realize that this was happening in Brazil. See, what I'm saying is that my mind has been progressively blown by the reach of the show's popularity. What I did notice is that every single time we had like a new episode would air, it wouldn't necessarily be on the day, but within 3 to 5 days, our show would shoot to the #1 position. And it happened every single week. It happened every single week. And then I think that the season finale, I'm not sure if you have seen the final episode of the first season, it had the best ratings of the entire season. So I mean it's humbling and it also kind of like, yeah, I mean, it feels good, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're kind of like, wow, it just doesn't happen. This doesn't happen very often. So we're all very grateful.
And I'm so happy about that. And I love the dynamic between Cara Deck and Morgan.
Yeah.
Both of you are amazing, Daniel and Caitlin. Like Caitlin is like a crown jewel. She's doing so much on TV, Hacks, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's impressive how she manages to make so many shows at the same time, right?
I don't even know when that woman sleeps. And I do want to communicate this to you. The difficulty of the memorization process as an actor, well, for me, it takes a lot of work. If it's a conversation like we're having, that's easier for me. What Caitlin has to do on the show is memorize text that is so she has to sound like she has an IQ of 160 and that she just knows, has an encyclopedic knowledge of like all these books back here and everything. And the degree of difficulty is very high and she makes it seem easy. I mean, that's very impressive to me. And I've been doing this for about 30 years. What I'm telling you is you don't see that very often. Caitlin is She's pretty special. Plus, she's an executive producer. Plus, she's doing multiple other television shows. Plus, she's a mother and a wife. It's, yeah, she must be getting by on 2 hours of sleep. That's the only thing it's the only answer I've got.
Yeah, I want to take some notes for her because it's amazing. It's impressive what she's doing. And I love the dynamic between both of your characters. Tell me about that. How did you guys build that dynamic? I don't know if you are aware of that, but there's like a whole ship in the internet, people like shipping your characters together. They want Morgan and Karadec together as a couple. I don't know if we're going to have that in the future. I have to say that I would love that because the chemistry between both of you is like it's a sparkle from the beginning. I wanted to know how'd you guys build that?
I have to just tip my hat to the casting directors, the producers, and the creators of the show. And this is the reason why I say that. Post-COVID, see, before you used to go into a casting director's office. It would be Rafa is the director or the producer, and I come here, I see you, it's in person. This process was I submitted myself virtually, like on tape. And then right here in this room, I did what they call a chemistry read, just like this, Zoom with Caitlin. And I might be missing a step, but then I got hired. And so in my mind now, I'm thinking, how could they know whether or not whether or not as actors we have any kind of real chemistry through the computer screen? But I don't know what the metrics were, but from the very first day that I stepped on set, it just kind of clicked. I was able to see her and her process. I think that she was able to see me and my process. And as professionals, when that happens, there's a shorthand. I don't know how to describe that, but like you don't really need to say much. It kind of just flows. It kind of just happens, And then there was a process of discovery now. The pilot episode that we shot in Vancouver, and then the episodes that we have shot in Los Angeles, but it wasn't hard. It was really smooth. And I would have to credit the casting directors and the creators of the show. I guess they could just see that it would work, and it's working. Up to this point, it's working.
It's definitely working. It's definitely working. And for us to wrap up our interview, I want to know, like, tell me the juice about season 2. I'm so happy to know that we're gonna have a season 2 in Brazil. We have the 6 first episodes. We haven't watched the whole episodes for now, but I want to know, what can we expect from season 2 so we can tell that to our audiences.
I am so relieved that I have no idea. In other words, what I'm saying to you is that if I knew and you asked me that question, I'd be like, well, I don't want to lie to you. I have no idea what they're going to do. What I can say with a fair amount of confidence is that Todd Harthan, who is kind of steering the ship right now, and Drew, and of course, Caitlin, I think the audience should definitely expect an expansion of whatever it is that they like about the show right now. I think that they're not going to try to reinvent the wheel. We are going to continue to do what we've been doing and try to do it better than we did it in the first season. And I have high confidence that we will deliver. Hopefully, we want to.
Amazing. But would you be I don't know, a fan of maybe a couple between Karadec and Morgan?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I forgot. I wanted to address that when you brought it up. So yeah, I have seen that on social media also. And what I remember, I think they're like #Moradec, like, Morgan and Karadec.
I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. So I think that, I mean, I don't know, but if I had to guess, I think that they will do this, like we call it a will they, won't they thing, right?
Yeah.
And whether or not we're going to see it happen early on in season 2, or, I won't even tell you whether or not it happens by the end of season 1, because you guys haven't seen it all. But I think that it will be a graduated process. It will be a slow thing, a flirtation. And I think that makes better TV. I honestly do. Because if you just jump to that immediately, then, all right, I mean, like, it's over. I mean, you remember Moonlighting and Friends, and I can name so many TV shows where there's a couple that everybody's like, we want them to get together. And that's one of the reasons why they continue to watch the show. So I will also say that if the way that it ends up between Morgan and Karadec is that they never actually get together romantically, that they, as moths around the flame, they kind of dance around it and flirt with it, but that ultimately it ends up being a relationship based on mutual respect and care, you know what I mean? That doesn't necessarily have to become something romantic. To me, that would be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that would be real cool. It doesn't have to go there, but I'm not the boss. If they throw us in bed, here we go.
I love that. I love that, Andy. Yeah. I have to say that I completely agree with you, because the flirtation atmosphere makes the show so much more interesting. It makes the audience even more engaged to it, because it makes them like, I don't know, like that thing that you feel when you're watching that kind of show, and you see like they should be together, but at the same time, I'm not sure if it's gonna work. So you're like stuck in the middle. That's what I mean. You're stuck in the middle between like, will they or won't they? I love that atmosphere. Yeah. You're completely right.
Yeah, no, it's because you don't want to collapse the wave function necessarily. It's the tension of the space between the possibility. I will say, I didn't know you guys have only seen 6 episodes.
Yes.
Just wait for the season finale. My favorite scene, you asked me about my favorite episode, but my favorite scene is in the season finale, episode 13, and it's a scene just between me and her that has everything to do with what we are talking about right now. Yeah, everything to do with that, yeah.
It's automatic.
Can we run the siren?
Absolutely not.
Sure. No, Mom, stop. Not on the drop-off line.
We have an APB out on 2 extreme cutie pies.